what you said, it's when they jump.
Yeah, everybody's in, right? Yeah,
You're
they're in.
not even RSVP?
No, you don't have to. You're in as part of, yeah, you're in.
Good.
Okay, so Gunnar is gonna do the wheel. You're good. So last week we were at 100. This week we're at 120. You have to either be on Zoom or present. So let's see. So who we got, Gunnar? You do it. Let's see.
Wrong camera, wrong computer.
There you go.
Is it a question?
It's a drawing.
Rebecca Cortez, I can.
Rebecca Cortez.
Rebecca. Is Rebecca on?
If she's not on, she's not getting.
That's right. That's exactly what happens. If they're no, so next week we're at 140.
Only
Okay, so thank you, Tamara, for your time and
yes.
and your expertise. And I'm going to turn it over to Tamara right now.
Okay, perfect. Hi guys, and just to give you a little history about me, so I think solar was my big first sales job. It was back in 2017 before I got into finance. I did solar 3.5 years for Solar City, then turned into Tesla. Then I started my finance job and revisited solar again probably 1.5 years ago, and I was disappointed to see some things going on that really did affect our industry. And I will just say I was not doing many sales. What I ended up doing is a lot of social work in homes and really helping people trying to figure out their situations. And due to the complexity of solar and everything that it has to offer, I am going to keep it very basic. And also, I want to empower each and every one of you to be able to push your transactions forward and deal with solar and just kind of tell you guys where to start. Because from what I see, one of the biggest issues is agents, assume a lot, are not immediately proactive, which is one thing you do have to be when there is solar on the home. You can't just assume what type of contract it is. So let me jump right into it. So solar, the good, the bad, the ugly, solar basics. So why does it matter? It can increase the marketability, right? It can increase the marketability in the home, but not always does it increase the marketability in the home, which is why you need to be aware of it. It will reduce the utility cost for buyers in most cases, which one thing I don't go into in these slides is yes, Edison is going up at a certain percentage every year, and that percentage is much larger than what a solar contract usually will go up. Most of the times double, triple, quadruple, right? So it adds another contract for you to review. So, and it can affect financing, title, and escrow timing. So this is the big catch on this screen, which I want you guys to focus on. Thank you. I'm over here flipping with this one. So why does it matter? And what I want you guys to focus on is your first job as a real estate agent is to identify the solar type immediately. Okay. And this is something that I see is probably the biggest mistakes among agents. And I'm not going to say like, oh, shame on you, but we weren't trained in solar, but it is part of our job. So it is important for us to be knowledgeable. So solar is not a problem when the paperwork and transfer path are understood early. And what does that mean for us? You shouldn't be listing a property if you have not reviewed that solar contract yourself. Straight up. You need to be getting that from the seller. It's very important. And you should be able to provide that to another agent that's requesting it. And the seller should know, and I know they usually don't, and sometimes they don't, but it's important for us to do our due diligence. So your first job is to identify the solar type immediately. Oh my gosh, I haven't done a presentation. My voice is shaky. So then there's 7 types of solar you may encounter. And these are the type that are most common here in the Valley that I know about, and there may be more, but these are the ones I want you guys to know about. 1, own system. 2, solar loan, finance to purchase. 3, a flat lease. 4, a prepaid lease. 5, a lease with an escalator. Okay, and then a PPA with no escalator and a PPA with an escalator. That's 7 when a lot of us think there's 1 or 2 and there's not, right?
I always
So,
thought that it was
each
just either
type-
slow it or not.
Right. Each type affects the transaction differently. So the first thing you want to do is identify what type of system you're dealing with. And sometimes it is more than one system on the roof, and sometimes is an own system, and then sometimes you have a prepaid lease, or sometimes you have an own system, and sometimes you have a PPA with an escalator. Identify both systems. And I don't get into 2 systems, but I don't recommend them unless the first system is already paid off, normally. And I just don't recommend them because of the complexity and the difficulty when transferring and the problems you will face when it happens. So we're gonna jump into an own system. Yay, this is our favorite type. It's paid off. The solar owns the panels free and clear. There's no lease payment, there's no solar lender. It's fully paid off. So you want to verify the ownership, ask for the utility bill, and monitoring access from the sellers. And when it comes to monitoring, we want to make sure, it's still producing. If the buyers do ask, we can provide that information and also transfer the monitoring access to them. Okay, so let me get this out of here. And this is also usually the easiest solar transaction for buyers and sellers. When it's paid off, it's a win-win for everyone. Okay. And there's a difference between you marketing an own system and an own system that still has a solar loan tied to it, which is on the next slide. So when it's being financed to purchase, it means there is still an existing balance, right? There is a lien on the property still, it hasn't been fulfilled. We need to know what the balance is, what type of, financing it is, who is the lender, is it transferable, how to deal with it, obtain the complete loan agreement and current payoff quote, review preliminary title, make sure things match up, confirm if it's a lien on just the equipment or if it's a lien on the deed of trust. There is so much to this part, right? It can get very complex, and I think this is where we have the most issues. It's very common right now that a seller maybe got a solar loan 2 years ago and is now trying to sell their house with something as high as a $70,000 payoff. And they're the ones that received the solar credit. So they received like a 20 to 30,000 solar credit, and now they're trying to sell their house and just shove that loan down the buyer's throat, right? And we don't like those situations, and we really do need to have a come to Jesus meeting with the sellers and the decisions that they made when they signed that contract, and make them realize usually a solar loan doesn't pay itself off or have, any payoff until after 8 to 10 years. So they need to realize it is going to affect their financials when coming to sell the house, and they may have to come down in price or come to some sort of terms of negotiation with the buyers. So always coordinate early with escrow. And yeah, make sure you guys are working on this stuff before you list the home, so you're ready to answer all these questions. And never
There are 2
assume.
kinds of financing with owned. Is there through the company and then private? They can get financing through like other
Yes.
institutions,
There is
right?
private, there is through the company. Some of the lenders that you're gonna see with the loan, there's like Mosaic, there's Good Leap, there's private credit unions, banks, so many. It gets very complex. So, and then they're gonna have their own qualifying factors. Never assume that the buyer can just take over the loan. You might have to have a certain credit score. When you check with your lender, there's going to be payment, PTI is going to be affected. So there's a lot to it, and you will have to structure your deal to make it work out for everyone. So I don't know. I'm going to go through this, and then at the very end, I'll answer any questions,
Okay.
if that's okay with you guys. So I'm going to go on to the next. So then we got the flat lease and then we got the prepaid lease. So the flat lease is going to be a fixed monthly payment. The seller does not own the panels, the company does. The buyer will usually assume the lease and qualify. Usually they guarantee that they will qualify to assume the lease. Like if they don't have a 650 credit score, that's their normal qualifications. There's usually some sort of flat fee that will allow them to automatically assume the lease. You want to request the term, the transfer fee. You want to have the sellers do the transfer fee. I know my TC is awesome and we put that in our offer. You want to know the monthly payment and explain the payment clearly to your buyers. This is a flat lease. It's going to end at such year, 20 to 25 years. Just let them know what they're getting into. And then a prepaid lease. I love prepaid leases, and I've had situations where the selling agent didn't even know they had a prepaid lease, and they said it was a normal lease, and my buyer went into a prepaid lease, which was badass. Okay, because what that means is it's all paid in advance. They don't have any payments, and then at the very end, it's not their equipment. The equipment is warranted and it's taken care of by the company and it's monitored everything. So it's kind of like it's already paid off, which is awesome. I love prepaid leases, especially when it's your buyers. So sometimes there is a balance. I've never seen a balance with a prepaid lease, but it could be that. So make sure you still review the contract. Confirm the service and the warranty and the end of term options. Most of these solar contracts will say end of term. We will remove it from the roof and we will restore your roof back to how it was, right? Normally those terms are in the contract. Make sure you review it so you can assure your buyer that that is going to be their situation. And then also, I know this question is going to come up. Some of these companies have gone out of business, right? So who's going to do it? Who assumed these contracts? So the new company that assumed these contracts assumed the contracts as is. So they have to fulfill the terms of the contract. Okay, keep that in mind. So lease systems still require transfer approval from the solar company. That is true. Usually they have to have a certain credit score, and usually it's guaranteed, if not a fee. Okay, I'm gonna go on to the next one. So a lease with an escalator is a lease payment that increases annually. The common escalators are around 1.9 to 3.9%, and the buyer doesn't own the panels. So how to deal with it? As for the current payment, the escalator rate, and the years remaining, show your buyers how the payment changes over time. How important is that? Very important. That is our job. You do not just quote the rate and ignore the escalator. We are there to protect our buyers. I'm just going to put that out there. That's my personal opinion. So start lease transfer early with the solar company. Same, review buyout options if available, and watch for buyer objections caused by the rising payments. So some of you will say, well, that makes my job harder, right? And it does. But usually they'll go up at 2.9%, 3.5%, you see with Sunrun. And the reality is with Edison, it was going up at a much higher rate. And if we're selling the home, it's important for us to have these utility bills from the seller to show like, hey, this used to be their payment. This is their payment now. Now it's going up at this rate instead of Edison's rate. Okay. At that point, we are going to be turning into solar consultants and salespeople because it's on their roof and you're selling the home with this contract. So yes, it is going to become part of your job. And that is just flat out what we're dealing with. So a PPA sign, kind of the same as a lease payment, but one thing I'll say about a lease is it has, how can I put this? So with the lease, you're paying a flat amount. With the power purchase agreement, a PPA, you're paying for what the system produces. So you're paying a certain price per kilowatt that the system produces. So if it was a really hot summer that summer and 2026 was hotter than 2025, very well, it could be that you produced more kilowatts that summer than the last summer and you're getting higher bills this summer. And it's not just because, that happens. And sometimes we have longer Indian summers and they had higher bills in September where you're like, they produced a lot more. So with the PPA, you're paying for what the system produces and not just a flat rate like the lease. The lease is like whatever it produces, it will produce, but usually in the contract, they have like, hey, it's going to produce this much on a yearly basis, and that's our guarantee to you. This one also has a guarantee to you how much it's going to produce on a yearly basis, approximately, but it's going to fluctuate based on how much it produced that month. And that can get kind of confusing. So sorry. So a PPA with no escalator, it has a flat rate and it's sort of like a flat lease. And then a PPA with an escalator, it's gonna go up every year. Okay. So it is a fixed rate. You'll see like in 2020, the rates were like as low as 15 cents a kilowatt. I've seen as low as 10 cents a kilowatt. Those are honestly great deals compared to what we have now. When I see a 10 cent, 13 cent, 18 cent, up to, in those numbers, those are really good leases, PPAs. You want to compare that to the utility rate for selling purposes. The buyer must assume the agreement, review the transfer process. Let's see, what else am I missing here? So you want to estimate the future cost versus what they're paying now, again, for selling reasons. And then you can review the buyout options for these types of contracts. And sometimes that company will allow you to buy out these contracts in full for the equipment. And you don't have to deal with any of these things, right? But I will say it is expensive. So I don't know. Those are all options. Okay, let me get to the next one. So before I get to this one, wait, no. What to request up front. So the house has solar. Make sure you get the contract, the loan statement, the latest utility bill. You want to tell the new buyer, these panels are producing enough for the home on a yearly basis, or hey, they're not, and we're getting a true-up bill every year. It's not enough for our family, and we have 10 kids, and some family moved in. I don't know, whatever the situation, right?
It's crazy.
Yeah, whatever it may be, sometimes it's not enough and they're getting a true-up bill. So it's important to get the latest bill, the lender information, the remaining balance, the transfer packet, the warranty and monitoring information, the battery information if applicable, which I will get into the batteries here shortly. So missing paperwork is one of the biggest causes of solar delays in escrow. So don't assume that your title company is just going to perform all the magic for you. Do your due diligence, get it from the sellers, okay? And I don't know, what do you think about that, Jacob, right? Don't assume that you guys are going to do everything, because it's important to have the contract and to be able to explain it to your buyer. So best practices to keep your deals on track. Ask about solar at the listing appointment. Share solar paperwork with the buyers up front. Identify the solar type immediately. Make sure escrow and title know about the system. Order the payoff or the transfer information early. And never advertised owned solar without proof. Okay, because there's a big difference between owned solar and a huge loan attached to the home. Okay. And just a little bit about the battery storage. I have 2 Tesla batteries at my home myself. I drive a Tesla. I think, it gets even more complex when you visit people that have it and may or may not understand it. And what the battery storage does is it provides, extra use for later in the day when the sun is no longer up and your panels are no longer producing. So usually these battery packs will fill up during the day and then you're able to use from them, which is great because that's normally when Edison wants to get you, for 50 cents a kilowatt because of time of use. So they're a great addition to any system. But what you want to know is Is the battery owned, financed, leased? Is it included in the PPA? What is the extra payment amount for the battery? Because sometimes it'll be part of the payment. Is it tied to the solar system on this home, or is it financed separately? Who is the lender, the battery provider? If there's a separate loan, lien, filing, what's the remaining balance? What is the warranty length and the transferability? And are there any monthly fees or monitoring costs? Does the system provide backup power? If so, how? Right? It's usually an app on your phone. And there's different types. There's not just the Tesla, which I think is the best one. There's an Enphase IQ battery. There's a generic power cell. And they're different sizes. You got like the 10 kilowatt, the 5 kilowatt. Some homes have 2, so that's getting 20. And some homes have 2 5s, they're getting 10, and they think that's a lot, and it's not. Okay, so yeah, they have different warranties too, so it's important to look at that as well. And just a little info, because I can go, this could be a week training, literally, if I went into detail. And I think that was it. That's all I made.
I have a
Okay.
question.
Go ahead.
So with PPAs, with or without an escalator power, those transferable with buyers, is it pretty easy as long as like you have all the terms in the loan statement, or how would you say go ahead?
So a PPA is not a loan.
Right.
So
Power purchase
then,
agreement.
yeah, so you're agreeing to purchase the power from the company at a certain rate.
And then it transfers.
Yeah, so it's transferable just like a lease.
Okay.
A PPA and a lease to me are like brother and sister. Like, they're just different. And a lease took the total kilowatts of the year and made it a flat payment. Kind of like when you sign up for that flat payment program that they used to offer. I don't know if they still offer it. And then a PPA is gonna charge you, month to month, depending on how much the system produces that month.
Does a PPA goes up and down every month,
Yes.
right, based on the usage?
Yeah. And
And
just,
you
Well,
still
it
have
could
to
be a-
qualify, buyers
Yeah,
still have to
that's-
qualify,
yes.
It could be a fixed payment too, right?
yeah.
It could be fixed, but then technically it's a lease, a flat lease. It really, because they're both like the same. You're paying for what the system produces, right? One's flat. With the lease, it's kind of cool because if it produces more that month, you're still paying the same thing, right? But if it produces less that month, you're still paying the same thing. So it depends how you want to look at it. And thing is, we're in the valley, so we get a lot of sun. We get a lot of heat. So it could be a good thing more than a bad thing.
PPA is the one that goes against the buyer's DTI, right? That thing count?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a
Yeah.
loan.
It's the opposite.
That's a loan, and I think a lot of people do get confused. Yeah, if it's not a loan, you're just paying what is being produced. And I hear a lot of agents and I sometimes don't want to correct anyone because I don't want to be that person, and they're misinforming a lot of people, and they're misinforming everyone, really. But it is complicated, so I will not hold that against anyone. But just try to find out what animal you're dealing with when you get your hands on that home, both buying or selling. Go ahead.
Can you kind of touch on the difference, the impact is on loan approval for PPA versus lease?
So I think that's more of a lender question, right? Because it's gonna affect their payment to their debt to income PTI,
Which
right?
ones do and don't and.
The loan.
Right.
The loan, which is the number 2, the solar loan financed options. So it's like they're gonna own the system. It's gonna be theirs and paid off free and clear, and everything that it produces will always be theirs. But they're paying it off like a car, right? It's like a vehicle, a little G-Wagon up there. Or a really fancy car up on your roof, and you're just paying it off, and the buyer's gonna assume that loan. So it's gonna affect it because they're gonna have a separate payment on top of their mortgage. And I think that's where a lot of us are running into these issues.
I mean, more as far
Right.
as-
They do debt ratio that.
Yeah, with your power purchase agreement, it's not gonna affect how much you can qualify on your loan.
No, that's much easier to assume the lease and the power purchase agreement. And I think a lot of people have confused the power purchase agreement with the solar loan or the finance to purchase, and we kind of need to get that out of our head. Once you see PPA on that contract, you know, it's a agreement to purchase the power from the panels, and the panels are not yours. They're going to remove them and take them off.
The other questions we have is, with the PPA, it does not go against the debt to income ratio, correct?
If it's a payment, I think you'll have to check with the lender if it does.
Okay.
Because it is a payment that they're always gonna make, but so is Edison. So then is the lender taking Edison and, you know, so it's a utility bill
Yeah.
technically. So
It depends on the lender itself and the loan.
I believe it does, you know, it depends on the lender. And just remember to tell the lender a PPA is not a loan, it's not a purchase, but it also depends how that company filed that lien against that home. Did they file it as a UCC fixture, you know, filing, which means they just own the equipment? Or they put a lien on the home, which most companies shouldn't have done, and shame on them.
What if you're having problems qualifying the buyer? Because buyers don't automatically qualify
For the loan,
for anything.
For the transfer.
For the transfer.
usually with the lease, I've never had an issue transferring it, you know, because everyone that's
Oh, you've
buying a
never dealt
house.
with Mosaic then.
Well, so Mosaic is a loan, so Mosaic is not a lease, that's gonna be a solar loan.
Is yours a loan?
I'm with Infin right now and it is a PPA.
Yeah.
So it's a transfer, but they did deny my buyer.
Right away.
I just had that happen for the first.
Lack of a cosigner.
Loan that usually.
If you want a cosigner,
What, do you know what their credit score was?
$599.
Oh,
599, they
It
don't
wasn't
know.
a credit disapproval. It was they checked a box.
What
They
company
want a
was
cosigner.
it?
That's Infin, and they just took over from a bankruptcy.
Yeah, that's, I've never, well, I know the major companies like Tesla, Sunrun, SunPower, even back then Solar City, they require for their leases and PPAs a transfer qualification of a 650 credit score. And in the event that they don't have that, they're gonna charge your buyer a small fee for the transfer because they guarantee it in their contract. Just so you know that. They guarantee transferability.
And I hope so, because we're
But I've never heard of Infin, and then also, you know, everyone's contracts are different, which is why I'm expressing review that contract first, so you're not misinforming.
Do you think you should ask, so when a seller says, oh yeah, it's owned solar, do you want to see the payoff? I mean, don't you, is there some kind of proof to show?
Show me it's
That
been
it's
paid
done
off, that's very
because-
important.
And how do they prove that?
Well, usually they're paying off an institution, so they should have a payoff, just like with the vehicle, when they pay it off, you get the,
Pink slip.
yeah, you get to, show me the pink slip.
Show
The
me
title.
pink.
Yeah, show me it's been paid off. You know, show me your last month's statement. Like that simple,
and if it's paid off,
even,
it shouldn't be on the prelim, right?
Right, yeah,
Okay.
it's that.
and then that's
Yeah.
another issue that we're running into. If it's paid off, it shouldn't be on the prelim, so that company should have done their due diligence and took the lien off of the home, which I've heard that's another
What if they
situation.
went bankrupt? And in the middle of all of that, that's where I think a lot of problems are coming in because of the bankruptcies.
Right now, SunPower went bankrupt and I forgot who took over it. They were, but so
It's Sunstrong.
Sunstrong. Okay, so they went bankrupt and they're like struggling to catch up on their end with their admin and stuff. So they have to assume that contract. They're not just making people re-sign their contracts. And if they are, I would be careful before re-signing anything. And I would advise people to not re-sign things, you know? They have to assume that contract. So then if they paid it off, they need to contact them. And I do get that a lot of people are dealing with, you know,
If they
the
went
holdups.
bankrupt, is a homeowner obligated to sign with the new person who takes over for that company?
I don't think they're obligated, but if they want to sell their home.
Yeah.
And they want to provide a service to the new buyer, do they have a choice or are they just gonna tell them, I don't know, here you go? Cause you can't really transfer it without them having to do all the legal paperwork to assume everything.
And
So they're gonna make it very hard for them to, and impossible for them
You
to
should be
sell that
able to
home.
opt out and tell them, fine, come take the panels off.
Yeah,
But
Have
how
them
long
go
are they gonna
through,
take to do that?
exactly.
But
So if
the
they're,
Too, like,
Mhm.
sorry,
No,
for
no,
that
no.
one, like you said, like, us title, we can't close it because we still have the lien. against
Right.
the
Right,
property.
so until that gets resolved, your escrow's just,
It's gonna
or your
sit there.
listing's unsellable, or you can't put it on the market yet, like, you're at a standstill until you have.
And you know what, like, we had an agent from here not that long ago, had one, like, took like 3 or 4 months, they went bankrupt.
Yep.
And we're just calling every week, like, hey, you guys get the new contract, you know, just following up, and luckily the buyer, like, wasn't in a hurry to close, I mean, they extended it, and the
Yeah.
seller was just praying, hopefully this buyer doesn't back out.
I tell, if my clients call me about solar, I tell them, don't do it.
Yeah.
Don't get solar on your house.
Yeah.
No,
So
do not.
No,
it'll make
Absolutely
it,
do not.
it's
Because-
definitely an extra.
But
Sad, and-
what we're seeing, I mean, some of those deals, those solar that
The
they put
terms are
people in,
everything.
100 grand, 120 grand that people owe.
That's
It
crazy.
paralyzed these people from
Yeah.
selling. There's no regulations on solar. These guys, it's like the Wild West out there. They go to a 1-day training and out they go. No disrespect.
No, that's fine. Some people.
But I-
No, and some companies are like that.
No, they go out, they canvass the area. As soon as I see them, I'm like, no, go. You know, I'm not using them. And they have no training and the amount of money they make is crazy. And that's coming
Tamara's all
from
like
the
that.
consumer. That's coming from the consumer.
There's good and bad. There's bad agents. There's
Yeah,
bad real
exactly.
estate
It's the
agents.
same
There's
exact
bad
thing.
solar salespeople.
Yeah,
It's everywhere. There's good and bad apples.
you're right. If you're thinking of selling your house, don't put owned solar on it because you're gonna pay 40,000 for the deal and you're gonna get 10,000 in value. That's what you're gonna get.
If you're trying to add solar on a home to add value to your home, definite no.
What
Right?
about a PPA in that situation?
A PP, it just depends because you can actually do the math. Okay, so if you're buying a system and you're confident that that system's not gonna break down on you in 8 years, which is why the battery is so crazy. It only has a 10-year warranty, you know, and then you're paying so much for it. And it's like, yeah, no, but there's so much to it. So this is the part where it can get ugly because it's like, will the company go out of business? Are they gonna take 3 to 4 months before they're applying to you to be able to sell your home? Are you gonna encounter these issues when trying to sell our home? Because our job is to push the sale of the home. Yes, it's gonna be harder, but if we're prepared with more knowledge, which I have not seen agents be prepared with the
Yeah.
basic knowledge of knowing these 7 things, you will be a lot further and like you will do a lot better at your job. Yeah.
Agreed.
Many agents don't even bother to get the solar paperwork until after they're in escrow.
And that is just crazy because it's like, how do you not have the contract? How is it listed and you're just saying, oh, they haven't got it to me? It's so important. It's good. If you're talking like that, just know you're gonna have issues in the sale of this home because you're not even
I
prepared.
would think if you're making an offer and
Mhm.
there is no solar contract that a seller can give you,
You can't.
I would not do anything. I would
can't.
not order an appraisal. I would not do a home inspection. I would not spend any of my buyer's money until they provide that first.
Correct.
Once you have that and it's reviewed and you can put that in a contract,
Correct.
you can write that down.
It's in there by default because now you have to do a solar disclosure. So
Right.
it's a 5-day
That's the
review.
5-day
There it
review.
is.
I
Correct.
would
But
say,
good luck getting,
Correct.
give you that on time if they don't have the documentation.
Right.
To be able to fill it out.
Right.
That's.
At fault of this listing agent and seller,
right,
yes.
I would just say, we're not ordering an appraisal. And I put it in my contract, all timeframes to begin upon inspection timeframes to begin upon receiving that solar contract.
Mhm.
Because otherwise you're spending your people's money and then the agent, the seller's like, oh, who's got it? I don't know, it's really bad, you know,
Yeah,
and
it's
then you got-
attached, it's part of the house, you know, and it could be a really pretty little thing and then it can be a really ugly little thing and you need to know the thing.
And Tamara or anybody else in the room, have you seen this? I've dealt with it once, and please feel free to speak on it. We initiated, I was a listing agent, we initiated a solar transfer. And it was all done by email. And nothing, the other agent was really nice, had it received nothing, good communication, and then on day like 12 or 13 or 14. She got a letter in the mail. And they got a new solar company, took it over, and I think that was Sunstrom. And we would have never known if the seller didn't tell me about that letter. We jumped right on it. We closed like 2 days late. But
Dang,
What
good job.
what I put together, well, kudos to the new solar company. What I put together is, I think, like in bankruptcy court, I think there's like a judicial branch or something, some kind of court that assigns it to the new company. I think there's always gonna be somebody, you know,
There is, someone has to acquire, if there's not, I've always. told
appointed by a
like,
judge, yeah,
if nobody buys them out, then it's like,
screwed.
hey, that is maybe, I don't know,
That
that's.
does happen. I've had two clients buy homes with free solar, just because the company went out of business. And whoever bought them out, when my clients were like, we don't really want the solar. Just
Mhm.
that one phone call of like, I mean, we don't even really want this. The solar company's been like, all right, well, at some point we might be able, or we might come out and take it off the house. Now, all right, fine. No payments, no nothing, just free solar until that company decides to drive from wherever they're at and actually take the solar off, which they will never do. What's that?
Is it functioning? Like, can they
Yeah.
see it on their bill?
Yeah,
And from what I understand, it's kind of like, mortgage companies acquire a loan. And they're like, okay, we sold it to this servicing
servicer.
company.
Mhm.
Because really it's the company, the new company is servicing it. They're monitoring it. They're promising you a production guarantee. They're charging you. They're collecting the billing. So then if there is no company that did that, I believe there is a certain amount of time before it's just dead. And I don't know what that time is. Any one of us can go do our research. I have not seen it come, and that's money you're leaving on the table, it's like, who's not gonna take those contracts, right? It's like, so, but if that were to happen, so we live in the US, it's like, Greed.com. You think they're gonna leave that money on the table? I don't know.
when they're doing with that scale of a business though,
Mhm.
like somebody's saying, you know what, I'm not gonna sign a new contract with you. Come take it if you want to. And that company's, their closest installer's 300 miles away. To come pick up $6,000 worth of equipment. Every once in a while, I'm not saying it's gonna work every time,
Right.
but every once in a while, as soon as you push back at all, like, I don't even want solar, so.
I
I'm
would
not
become
signing this.
weary if they asked me to sign something again,
Yeah.
right? Because that means that whatever was in the old contract
They
didn't
won't change,
automatically
right.
transfer me to this new company, which would save me from that. So
Right,
yeah, I would probably stop and really figure it out
Yeah.
before I signed anything. I just assumed that this new company didn't add any things that weren't gonna protect me. Yeah, so.
what's causing the chaos with all these companies going out of businesses and absorbing each other and everything is. They are so hungry to snatch each other's market share that they're undercapitalized. So when they go to buy out another company, they are leveraging themselves with debt to do that. Now the servicing on that debt goes up, interest rates go up, whatever. Now every projection they had for how they're gonna make all that work falls apart. So they can't afford to pay off the loans that they used to buy that company out. Now they go bankrupt. So now you've got the last bankruptcy got snatched up by this company. Now this company is losing all of them and it's rolling to another company who's leveraging themselves with huge loans at high interest rates again. So they just keep collapsing because there's these people that are too aggressive and they're not planning ahead for anything going anything but perfect. So that's why you're seeing all these bankruptcies and everything. That's why you see them done so poorly, is because these companies just see an opportunity and jump at it without actually planning for the future and how they're going to worry about you as the consumer.
Mhm.
So as soon as like the spreadsheet doesn't match up with the revenue, it all falls apart because they're just razor thin on all their margins after paying all the interest. So it's not going to stop happening.
No, it's not.
And
Is
what-
there any way to address a terrible solar
Yeah.
lease? I mean, what do you do when you get a listing and you've got a horrible lease on there?
Yeah, because I feel like it's like most buyers, they just don't know what's going on. So like, how do you explain that to them? Like, how can you format that?
You
Explain
provide
to
the
them.
contract, right? If you're the listing agent, you provide the contract and you let them read it and see like, hey, this is the price per kilowatt. This is how much it's gonna go up a year. And then if they have an issue, if you can prove that there is savings, you should prove it because you want to sell that house for the seller. And that should be part of our job because they want their house sold, right? And I encourage every single one of us to stay positive and try to look, because we can go down this dooms hole and focus on the negative, but it's not going to help us do our job at the end of the day. If we just say solar sucks, it's horrible, everyone's going out of it, like, we're not going to be able to sell homes. So we need to focus on what we can control and actually communicating what the contracts entail, and if there is a solution, focus on the solution.
But you agree there are bad. solar
There are bad solar contracts,
That
horrible,
it makes it
horrible.
impossible to sell a house. or-
very
or-
impossible.
Yeah.
The only way to combat that is price. And
Exactly.
That's the only way to
Money.
combat it.
And also the seller has to take some responsibility.
Yes.
You
yes.
signed that contract.
Yeah.
That is an $80,000 loan.
Yeah.
Are you trying to sell this home and then have them acquire an $80,000 loan after you got a solar credit back from the government? Be real, be logical. Let's have you pay off this loan in order to sell your home or drop the price. But I think paying off the loan is usually the best option for everyone. And then, either including it in the price of the home or finagling the
Can
price
you
of the home.
negotiate that? What the buyout is? Will solar companies negotiate?
Sometimes, yes. Yeah, you can negotiate your buyout.
Really? So would the seller would have to negotiate the buyout, right?
Yeah.
To buy it down more than like 80,000? Let me give you an example.
Yeah, you can do that. Definitely. But some companies will not budge.
What
I've
happens?
seen them budge.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What happens if a homeowner loses a house? What happens with that solar contract?
They come pick up their equipment, which is crazy. Usually, if they lose the house, I mean, they can't force someone.
I mean, because that is what it's gonna come down to for some of these contracts,
Yeah.
like, hey,
They'll probably
we've gotta
just take
move,
the
I'm
hit.
just gonna let the property go, you get nothing, or I'm gonna negotiate this with you, which one is it gonna be?
Mhm.
Yeah. That's
The
a hard one.
companies usually like account for that, a small percentage of like failures like that. And so sometimes they just like, you said, like just throw their hands up and walk away. They're like, okay, I'm not even gonna come take it because it's not worth my time, money, like. We're just not taking the system and it's short sailed or whatever.
Yeah.
So sometimes they do take the hit.
There's so many things that go into
That's why you
it.
need it all up front.
Yeah.
That's why you've gotta get all of that, so you can really lay it out and understand it.
Mhm.
Because as a selling agent, you've gotta explain it, or the listing agent, you've gotta explain it to the buyer's agent, and if you don't have all of that, it's gonna be really tough.
And sometimes I feel like agents just don't wanna look at it because they don't wanna deal with the problem.
Yeah.
Trust me, I don't want to deal with what I have to deal with right now.
Yeah.
I have to deal
But
with it.
you have to face it up front and brainstorm, find some solutions. I mean, you guys have me, if you want to contact me, I can give you my personal, expertise or opinion on it. And then go from there, but get help, like, don't just sit there and,
Yeah. Avoid it.
avoid, like anything else, but, yeah. It's
All right.
it's a lot.
This was a really good training.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any other questions for Tamara?
So back to as far as you say, a lot of these companies that bankrupt and then sometimes they don't get picked up. How do
No, they've all gotten usually picked up. I have not seen one not get picked up. Like I said, they usually will acquire the contract, just like a mortgage company will acquire their mortgage,
so they get
That would be awesome if they didn't acquire my mortgage. Like, yes. So it is rare. I've never seen it personally. That would be cool.
And you shouldn't have to sign another contract. Your contract should just.
That's also an opinion of mine. Like, I would be weary. I would talk to a lawyer. I really would. And there's a lot more solar lawyers now than there has been ever.
Yeah, watch social media. They're.
So then I would literally have a consultation and be like, hey, this was my contract. This is what they want me to sign. What are my rights?
There's a
And we
difference
just
between-
fight them and have this taken off. But
Yeah.
again, people don't want to work. They don't want to do their due diligence. And that's why we're having so many problems as well. They're ignoring the problem. We need to tackle the problem.
Yeah.
And there are these solar lawyers, which I know I just heard recently about one guy that's like, he's a flipper, and when he gets a house, he gets all the solar taken off. And I'm like, I need to find him and talk to him. And who's his lawyer? It's like, let's inform ourselves and just become stronger. Yeah.
So what Jackie and I are getting ready to have a meeting with TCs on Tuesday, and all TCs, I want all seller disclosures within 48 hours of a listing being signed.
Mm.
And that's gonna include solar contract. That's thrown in there because we want to be so professional that because people don't understand all the guideline or the timelines, but you have 5 days from signing a contract to get seller disclosures to the buyer's agent. That includes the solar business.
Our agents should not be those agents that are not having their solar before that listings on
Right.
the MLS.
So all of our agents need to know, like, you better be on it. If they say they have solar, you start asking that seller for that contract right away. Even before it's listed, because it's gonna affect the list price too. You don't wanna list the house, then look at the solar contract and then realize, oh, we've got a major issue.
gotta
You
do a
want it
price
before,
deduction, yeah.
before.
It shouldn't be an agent that's putting the listing up and looking at their photos to find out is there solar. Our agents like that, don't be that agent.
That's why I always have drone shots. Jackie, to see if there's solar.
When you walk into the house, you usually see it there, but
Before you go on that listing appointment, Google Maps will tell you if there's solar on the property. You should have that question ready right when you walk in.
or the one too, I did have my house did not have solar, but my seller had contracted for a PPA before we even put it on the MLS. It wasn't even attached yet, but it was already at the point they couldn't cancel.
Oh.
So yeah, that was a fun one to deal with, but it got done.
And then again, to put it back on the seller, why?
Yeah.
Why didn't you tell me?
We're friends now, you signed this listing agreement with me, but why did you do that?
Your family's like, can you cancel? Can you tell them I'm selling the house? I don't want it no more. But they wouldn't let them know. So luckily we were able to sell it. We were able to get it transferred over. But it was harder especially when we're doing showings and even our listing photos don't even have the solar on there.
Oh, yeah.
And so it was a funky one.
And I mean, I've done dumb things, I signed up for a time for one. So it's like that, like
Oh,
that's
girl.
what you're dealing with.
I know every time I hit the airport and I see them, I run because I know they will convince me. I run, girl.
They start whining.
You gotta run.
Sometimes I just everyone likes to pop up for that.
So there are good solar programs. You just gotta know what you've got. You've gotta know what you've got.
There is good contracts, so I know a lot of us wanna be like, "Oh, it's horrible, it's all horrible," but most of the times when I talk to agents, it's because they don't understand.
Okay.
And not knowing is the main source of the problem in communication. When you don't know, you hate it automatically. So if you don't understand something and you're not able to turn around and explain that to others, then we're gonna have problems, you know? And I think that's one of the big issues, because a lot of contracts are awesome. And I'm like, dang, they got locked in at a low rate. This is great. Everything's producing well. You can tell with the monitoring, everything. It's like, it's good. And then there's some that are not good, you know, so.
Well, and I feel bad for homeowners. They get talked into things. They don't know what they're getting. These guys come in, again, sorry, but I've dealt with them. They come in, they're very salesy, they
Very.
push, it's this,
Yeah.
it's this, it's this, it's not at all what they're getting. And they
Mhm.
seem to prey on older clients, older
Mhm.
people. You know, wasn't it you, Fred, that had the one
I've
that was
seen-
all the medical and it was, how much did they owe on that system?
73
I mean,
for a like 2,000 square foot house.
When Leticia had one that was, I think, 100 and.
It was like 250.
250,
Yeah,
it was
two different.
250,000, I mean,
Yeah.
come on.
Yes, yeah.
Never seen a house.
How can you even sell the house?
Also, in order.
Well, and he was disabled,
Yeah.
right, and they kept
that's so sad.
they took advantage, that's predatory,
Yeah.
you know, that's predatory, that is bad.
And like I said, there's people who get wholesalers that pick up homes from old
Mm-hmm.
people for $30,000, you know, and they don't know
Same
their
thing.
house is worth
Same thing.
300,000.
Yeah, same.
There's good and bad people in every
But the
industry.
problem is that they are not governed and we are.
Yeah.
We have the DRE, we have to have a license, they are not.
That license, no, they have a license, but that's
Who governs it?
exactly, but do they care if they lose it?
They don't.
You know, and I don't think other people care if they lose their DRE license too. Some people do that too.
Training was really good. I can tell my broker she started doing trainings like this.
Are you?
Or just join.
Don't tap me, Tamara.
Call me, girl, call me. Bye. Yeah, I don't know. What else is, there's still people. Do you guys want me to end this? Or do you want to end it?
Whenever you're ready.
If you guys have any more questions, feel free to text me, feel free to call me.
Oh, Wes said he could answer questions.
Much love here.
Oh, Wes says he's a solar rep and he can answer
No, it's the
questions.
solar questions,
Oh.
like tied to the loans, the loan questions.
Just loan specific, yeah, because they were asking about which ones count against the debt, which ones don't. Right?
Oh, yeah, what about Wes?
So the PPAs, as long as they have the production guarantee, they do not count against the debt ratio for conventional or FHA. Solar leases do count against the debt ratio. So if you had just a straight solar lease for the equipment, not the power, then you have to count both of those against the debt ratios. On the owned solar, where the customer went and got a personal loan to purchase the solar, sometimes it's attached to the property, sometimes it's a personal. FHA, you can assume those because FHA allows you to go above 100% of what they refer to as combined loan to value. However, conventional does not. So you cannot assume a purchased solar system on a conventional loan unless you're putting like 20 to 25 20. Well, it would depend on the balance. So you can only go to 95% total financing on conventional. So if the solar is 100 grand and they're putting 5% down, you cannot do it. It'd have to be paid off. Those are all sticky points.
Wes, if you're doing a 20% down conventional loan and then you've got a solar loan on there, is that going to affect your PMI or
No, it will not. But they won't approve it above a 95% total loan to value. So if you put 20% down, the solar can only be 15% of the sale price.
No, one of our agents.
What's on the chat, Jackie? Is there anything?
Ileana had a lot of in-depth questions. Wes was already answering most of them.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I wasn't paying attention to.
Well, you can't see the chat.
Yeah.
And usually there's not much.
We were training.
Yeah. All right.
Did that cover the lending side?
Yeah, I believe so.
Anybody else have any questions for Wes?
I love that. Thank you. I didn't.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Tamara. Thank you.
Nice job, Tamara. That was awesome.
Very good.